Hello and welcome back for another brewing video. Today it's cider. Earlier today we brewed the mead, got it started at least. I figured why not, I have the cider, I want to do it, may as well record this. It's a really remarkably simple process. As always, sanitize everything. I'm using my Mr. Beer cask because I already own it and it's the right size, it's fine. I don't recommend buying an empty Mr. Beer cask, they're expensive. They're more expensive than this the bottling bucket, which is significantly bigger. Depending on the volume you want to make, you can get a brewing bucket in and around the right size. And if you can't get a bottling bucket, for whatever reason, the transfer system that I showed in the bottling video and the bucket, the cost of those things combined is still going to come out less than a single Mr. Beer cask. I have it because I bought a Mr. Beer kit because I wasn't sure if I was going to get into this long term. And I don't regret that purchase, but I've grown past the Mr. Beer stuff. But I have the equipment, I'm going to use it. So our only real ingredient is soft cider. This is, and here it is, no sugar added, no preservatives added, that's very important. You don't want any preservatives. No water or concentrate added, and unfiltered. As I understand it, you can use apple juice from concentrate to do this. I'm not exactly sure what you have to avoid when you're doing that. But if you just buy soft cider, pure soft cider, no preservatives, that's a very important thing. So I'm going to pour 4 of these. These are 3 liters each, which is going to come out to be a little bit more than 2 gallons after it's all said and done. So 9 liters, a little bit more than 2 gallons. In here. I took the lids off before I started recording because in the initial take of this, one of the lids was fighting. It was just spinning and spinning. It wasn't coming off. Whoops. Normally I would cut away from this type of stuff, but honestly there is so little labor involved in making cider, assuming you're not pressing your own apples, that I figured, why bother? I mean, the labor's already done. So now, I am going to be adding some yeast nutrient. Normally you wouldn't have to with cider, but I am using harvested yeast. I figured I'd give it some nutrient, give it a bit of a kick. Help it wake up a bit. And yeah, this stuff smells super bad. Now, even if you don't use yeast nutrient, it's not a bad idea to give this a short stir just to aerate the cider a bit. Pouring it in there probably aerated it plenty. And last, but most importantly, the yeast. Now with cider, and with everything actually, all alcohols, the yeast you use affects the flavor when it's all said and done. Oh yeah, that's gross. So this is, I believe, Nottingham yeast. If you like a dry, I don't actually know how this turns out, I haven't tasted it, but if you like a dry cider, then you want to use a champagne yeast. I believe my roommate used ale yeast and it came out very sweet. It was nice as well. So, better reading to figure out what types of cider will do what. I'm not entirely sure how the Nottingham will turn out. I haven't tasted it. I'm looking forward to finding out. And yeah, that is the end of this video. This is a short one. That's cider, basically. It's pretty easy. Welcome back. It's been approximately 2 weeks since the initial brew on the cider. And after reviewing the footage I filmed, I decided that I wanted to add a bit more to what I discussed. So as I said, it's been about 2 weeks, and what's known as primary fermentation is done. It's called primary fermentation because at this point we have two options. I can either rack it to another container, which is just a way of saying transferring it from the cask it's currently in to anything else that will hold it. The advantage to doing this is it moves it away from the vast majority of the yeast and lets it begin to clarify. If I decide to do that, I would let it sit there for probably another 2 weeks, and then I would bottle it. The other option is, if I'm not worried about clarifying it, I can bottle it right now. I'm going to go with option B. I'm just going to bottle it right now. I tested the gravity off camera. I got the approximate percentage. When I initially put the soft cider in here, I tested the gravity at that point, and you compare the starting gravity with the finished gravity. There's a math formula, or you can just use a website. I use a website. And that gives you the approximate alcohol by volume. So this is going to come out to be right around 6.5%. That's what it's currently saying. And if you are interested in clarifying, this, as an example, is unclarified. This is approximately what it looks like. It will clarify a little bit in the bottle, not as much as you let it rack. If you rack it and let it sit for another 2 weeks. I'm not too worried about racking it. I'm just going to bottle it. And the bottling process is basically identical to beer. All bottling is largely the same. So I've already done a video on bottling. And if you want, you can watch that. But, I mean, really, you don't need to. There's a tap on this. I'm just going to turn a tap and fill a bottle. That's all there is to it. I will bring you back briefly when that's done. I'll see you soon. Welcome back. Bottling is done. I got a total of 16 of these. These are 500 milliliters, or if I remember correctly, 16.9 US fluid ounces. Once you're done bottling, or in the process of bottling, you have a couple of options. If you like still cider, then you bottle when you're done. If you want carbonated cider, you need to use something to carbonate it. I'm fine with still cider, but I decided to test a couple of my bottles with carbonation. Using carbonation drops. I buy them from Finger Brewing. Again, I will yet again link them in the description. If you're not local, if you're too far away, there's probably a brew store local to you. They do deliver. I'm not sure what their range is. I imagine it's extensive, but again, there's probably something local to you. I don't know how many of those carbonation drops it'll take to carbonate the cider, so I did an experiment. One of these drops is appropriate for carbonating a volume equivalent to a standard bottle of beer. This is somewhat bigger. These are about half again the size. So 1 isn't quite enough, 2 is too much. I know from experience with beer that 1 in a stout, specifically, was an acceptable light carbonation. It was pleasant. I rather enjoyed it. So what I've done is I have 1 bottle with my terrible handwriting that is supposed to be a C and a dash, not a badly drawn question mark. Dash is there's only 1 carbonation drop in that one. This one, the C and 2 dashes, has 2. So I'm just going to see how it turns out. I highly recommend experimenting. That's kind of the whole point of this. Experiment, find what works for you. As I mentioned earlier on in the initial recording, different yeasts will result in different flavors, different colorations, different strengths. They're all going to be largely the same color, but it will vary a little bit here and there. Just because the yeast you use on your first batch resulted in something you didn't enjoy doesn't mean that you can't enjoy homebrewed cider, beer, mead, whatever. Maybe you try different yeast. And when you find a yeast you do like, sometimes yeast can be expensive. Specifically, the yeast that resulted in this was only about $4. But the yeast I used for this mead was 10. A little pricey. Either way, you don't have to buy a new packet of yeast for every batch. You can harvest what's left at the bottom. The scum, I guess is a good enough word, that is at the bottom, not the ring around the very top of your bucket or whatever you're brewing in. You don't want that, that's useless. You want the slurry that's left on the bottom. It's basically yeast and a little bit of a liquid. You want to pour that off into a container. You don't need all of it, just a portion. Get a closer look at that. Yeah, it probably doesn't look too appetizing. These Ziploc containers or snapshot containers are not ideal because it needs to breathe. Yeast is alive, you don't want to kill it. So this isn't actually closed. It's kind of like open a bit on the corner. What I've heard recommended for harvesting is the mason jar, only instead of putting the central lid piece, you tighten down on top of, you tighten the outer lid piece down on top of essentially tin foil, baking foil, whatever, and put a couple holes in it. This is what I have, it's what I'm using. It worked last time, hopefully it'll work again. You can harvest for quite a while, but sooner or later you're probably going to get a wild yeast contamination. Maybe something blows in through your window, maybe it's something you're cooking in your kitchen, who knows. Sooner or later it's probably going to happen. At that point, you're done with that yeast. Whatever you have left, pour it down the sink, give your equipment a good solid clean, and you have to buy a new packet and start over. You can potentially harvest, I say potentially, easily harvest enough for multiple batches. I probably could have harvested 2 of these. I only have the one right now. So that 1 batch of cider gives me enough yeast at the end to do 2 more. Yeast is alive, it makes more of itself, just like everything else is alive. Yeah, I think that's it about yeast, and I think that's it about the cider. The cider, honestly, it's ready to drink. You can chill it and drink it right away. If you are carbonating, much like the beer, you want to squeeze the bottle, do a squeeze test. Again, it's probably, it shows up a little bit. If the bottle's soft and squishy, it's not carbonated. If there's resistance, it's starting to carbonate. That's sort of the just quick and easy test. I recommend letting it sit for at least a week. I'm probably going to let these 2 sit for probably either a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then I'll compare them. If you're not carbonating, then yeah, I mean, throw it in the fridge and enjoy when you're ready to enjoy. And that does finally bring us to the end of this video. I hope it was useful. I hope it was entertaining if it wasn't useful. And as always, remember to always drink responsibly. Thank you very much for watching.